Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have the final piece of the missing Spinosaurus puzzle as we have the adult female Spinosaurus from Artic Figures here to check out. There is also a Plesiosaur, which I should have up for review very soon on the channel as well, but this is the final member of the actual Spinosaurus family that is currently available in the Indiegogo campaign, again from Artic Figures. And you can see this one has a little bit of a different look for it compared to the more traditional Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus. And that's because we've really only seen a male Spinosaurus in the franchise so far. So Artic Figures was able to take a little bit of artistic liberties with this one, give it a bit of a unique look and a bit of a different look while still, remaining that Jurassic Park 3 sort of a look. And I think it looks absolutely phenomenal. Like, he really did a very good job of giving this one a look that, again, looks like it absolutely is potentially, related to like a Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus, but at the same time has its own individuality and also is kind of like a mixture between a JP3 Spino and a more modern, up-to-date version of a Spino. As you can see, we've got the paddle-like tail, which is something that you don't see on the Jurassic Park 3 version of a Spinosaurus. We also have a bit of a different look for the sail. The entire body kind of has a little bit of a low-lying, more elongated look. The dinosaur comfortably looks kind of quadrupedal in a way, but obviously you could get it into a bipedal stance, and that again would be up to you in the way you want to display it, but I like it absolutely down here on all fours. I think it looks super, super cool. And again, there's just other little differences that he has put forth into this Spinosaurus to give it that different sex type of a look, again, to differentiate it from the male here with this really nice female version. So what we're going to do right now is go ahead and get a closer look at it, and then we'll get it painted up after that. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Spinosaurus, you can straight away see that I have the mouth open, and that's because being an Artic Figures release, you have an articulated jaw, but you can also see that you have the, stuff that you would look for when it comes to a Spinosaurus, like that really nice hook in the jaw, and you've also got the nice Spinosaurus crest up here, which is a bit different than what you see on a Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus, as we usually have the crests above the eyes, but no crest in the center of the head, whereas with this female variant, you absolutely have that crest on the center of the head, again, giving it a little bit more of a modern, up-to-date take on a Spinosaurus. And you can also see the nostrils sculpted out right there. Beautiful looking texturing to the skin throughout. You have some nice creasing and everything there in the eye area of the Spinosaurus. And of course, as you move down to the teeth, you can see each and every tooth is sculpted individually, and they look honestly fantastic. Really, really nicely sculpted teeth overall. They look genuinely sharp, very lifelike, very realistic. You can also see the tongue sticking up here, and that is because the tongue is articulated, so that's just one section of many as far as this Spinosaurus goes of articulation. And you can see the tongue fits and sits very nicely there in the mouth on the lower jaw once you push it down. And then you can see the detailing there for the upper side of the inside of the mouth. Looks incredible as well. Again, Artic Figures never, ever, ever goes lazy when it comes to his sculpts. He always sculpts them out to the max, and you can definitely see that here with this Spinosaurus. And again, we have the articulated jaw, which works really nicely. You can see it closes perfectly. You can also take notice to the fact that the snout almost seems a little bit elongated more so than what you see on a Jurassic Park 3 male version. Then up here on the top of the head, as you start to lead back, first of all, you can see some larger scales here on the top of the head, but as you lead into the neck, you start to see something that again is a bit different from what you see on a male version, as you have some ridges running along the back of the neck. We usually see kind of like almost like an armored scoot-like appearance running down the back of the neck of a Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park, but this time we have just like ridges running down the center of the neck, and then really nice looking skin texture moving down the course of the neck. And you can see all of the detail looks phenomenal, even moving down here into the throat. The throat itself is also nicely highlighted in the sculpt. And of course, again, being Artic Figures, you have tons of articulation moving down the course of the neck. So first of all, you've got a spot right here in the back of the head. You've got another spot right here in the neck, another spot right here, which isn't moving. There we go. We kind of moved it right there. Then you've got another spot right here, another spot right here, and then another spot right here. And that allows you to have some really, really nice posability in the neck of your Spinosaurus. Again, allowing you to pretty much put it wherever you would like as far as positioning the neck of your Spinosaurus. The articulation works really nicely on these Artic Figures releases. As you move down, Into the body, you can again see some more really nice looking skin detail here. Really highly detailed skin texture here as you move down into the body of the Spinosaurus. Probably some of the nicest skin detail I've ever seen, and it looks really good. You've got some skin wrinkles and stuff here leading up. You have a really nice arm sculpt as well as you move down here into the arm of the Spinosaurus. More nice looking skin texture, also more nice articulation. As you can see, we've got the area here in the shoulder as well as the elbow. You've got two spots here in the elbow, above and below the elbow, as well as wrist articulation and finger articulation, and that's something that we found on the adult male, and now we find on the adult female as well. So tons of articulation, even more so than your average Artic Figures release on the adult versions of the Spinosaurus from Artic Figures. And as you move up here into the sail, you can again see that the skin detail of the sail looks great, but you also can see that we have that very different style of a sail for the Spinosaurus, as we have that kind of like divot here in the center, more so than the rounded shape that we have for the male version. So again, love the fact that he's done such a good job of differentiating the male from the female, and again, on top of that, giving us like the collectible that we would love to see, which is a mixture of a more accurate Spinosaurus with a Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus. As you move down, you also have articulation here in the midsection, but it's not your traditional style articulation of the midsection. You can see it kind of goes up and down, can also move a little bit left and right, but mostly up and down, and that's because you do often get the articulation in the center of a, figure like this if you go for like the super articulated figures, but with a sail being included, that sometimes complicates the articulation a bit, and you could always cut the sail in half, but that looks a little bit awkward. So just like I stated with the adult male, Artic Figures has gone ahead and created this very interesting new style of articulation for the midsection where it doesn't interfere with the sail and still works really nicely. So definitely like that he's done that. Very creative, very innovative as far as articulated dinosaurs go. As you continue to move back here a little bit further, you see some more skin wrinkles. You can also see the hip bone up here, as well as some larger kind of scoot-like scales running along the top of the dinosaur leading up toward the sail. As you lead down here into the thigh region, you see a few osteoderms poking up, as well as, again, more nice cracks and crevices and skin texture throughout. You've got some scoots running down the front of the leg of the Spinosaurus, down into the knee and down through the shin as well. You also, of course, have the nice muscle definition displayed in both the thigh and calf region, and of course articulation, as you've got a spot of articulation there in the hip, as well as, just like with the elbow, above and below the knee. You can see that we can move all of those areas. And then as you move down, you've got another spot here, as well as toe articulation. Again, something that was present on the adult male. You also have that on the adult females. So tons and tons of articulation as always. And you can see that foot sculpt looks really nice. You've got those scoots that run down the front of the shin and thigh and everything. They continue down into the foot and then down the course of the toes. You've got the really nicely sculpted nails, as well as the dew claw, which you can see over there in the opposing leg. And then we lead up here, and you can kind of see like a little bit of a jagged edge to the sail leading out into the tail, as the tail kind of transitions to the paddle-like tail, which again is very different compared to what we usually see on a Jurassic-style Spinosaurus, and I love that aspect of the figure. First of all, the texturing to the skin and everything looks phenomenal, but I also love, again, the wavy, very, semi-aquatic look that we have running along the top of the paddle-like tail moving out. And I love that there's also kind of like some difference to those areas. Like, they don't just look like the same thing repeated. He's definitely done a good job of differentiating each section from the other, giving it a little bit of a different look. So again, always adding in the absolute most impressive amount of realism, I guess I could put it that way, for his figures. And you can see that paddle tail again looks great, and you could really pull off that swimming movement so nicely with the tail. Look at how good that looks. If we look at it from the side, I can just envision the Spinosaurus swimming along. He actually has a really neat video on his Instagram account where he basically just shows off all of the articulation, and that was my first chance to really catch a glimpse of the Spinosaurus in action as far as the articulation goes, and I was blown away by how good it looks in the swimming position. Definitely the way to go, I think, when displaying this. But again, as you can see, you have tons of articulation moving out through the course of the tail. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 joints moving out the course of the tail, which allow you to have any pose pretty much that you would like for your Spinosaurus. And again, it works very nicely as far as the display goes. And of course, the opposing side is going to look pretty much the same, especially since I don't have paint on it or anything quite yet. And again, just as impressive, of course, over here as it looks on the initial side. And I'm really, really excited to get some paintwork on this. Again, he had shown off an image of the artwork by the incredible artist that is working with him and creating his cards and stuff. And the artwork is kind of semi-based on like a Cayman style paint scheme. So I'm going to try to work off of that, give this somewhat of a similar look to what we see on the card, the artwork and stuff, and then we'll go ahead and check it out from there. So let's go ahead, get this painted, and we'll be right back. So the female Spinosaurus is painted up now, and we have it finished here, looking pretty cool. I did give this a paint scheme that was similar to the artwork that was created for the release of this Spinosaurus. You can see the artwork here, again showing off the kind of greenish tones, and Artic Figures had stated that he wanted the paint scheme to look kind of Cayman-like, and I tried to give it that Cayman-like paint scheme, but with, you know, a little bit of like an extra element that's not so Cayman-like. So I tried to do, you know, like a pretty good mixture of both to give it its own unique individuality, but also still having that somewhat Cayman-like look. And I'm pretty happy with the results. You know, it's got that very cool greenish color scheme like I often like to use on Spinosaurus figures, because I always feel like greenish color schemes just looks so good on Spinosaurus. And for instance, this one here, I feel like it turned out pretty nicely again as far as that greenish color scheme goes. And of course you can correct the wrists. I always have them in the reviews kind of pronated, because when it comes to Jurassic Park style dinosaurs, you usually don't really need to have them correct because they're often pronated, but in this instance, this is a more scientifically accurate style Spinosaurus, more so than a Jurassic Park style Spinosaurus, so it makes sense that we would correct the wrists there. But you can see again that once it actually, you know, gets some paintwork up on it, I think it looks so stinking nice. Like, the sculpt is really well done, and you can see now how nice the detailing just pops so beautifully throughout the entire Spinosaurus. Of course, we still have the articulated jaw, the articulated tongue, and all of that fun stuff, and you can get a nice look at what the inside of the mouth looks like now with some paintwork on it, kind of, if the shadows will let us take a look at that aspect of the figure. And again, he actually takes my paint jobs that I give the models, and he tries to recreate them for the official painted versions from his Indiegogo campaigns. So if you order one of the painted ones, it's going to look pretty darn similar to this, pretty much the same, because again, they try to recreate the paint schemes in a way where it looks like, and the paint applications where it looks like my version, which is definitely pretty cool, I must say. But again, the Spinosaurus, I feel like, as far as a female version goes, looks really good, looks, again, nice and natural. Of course, the sculpt is what is the best part, but my paint job hopefully has done this figure justice. And again, I've hopefully achieved that somewhat Cayman-like look, but also having somewhat of a naturalistic look for a Spinosaurus here with this female variant. And again, the more scientifically accurate variant of a Spinosaurus. So definitely let me know in the comments section what you guys think of the paintwork, if you think it turned out, you know, all right, I guess, or what your opinions might be on it. But I'm pretty happy with it. Again, the model is so beautifully detailed that it's one of those instances where it pretty much will paint itself once you add some paintwork on it. So whether you get the painted version or you get an unpainted version, again, it's up to you, and you're going to have a great time painting it up. And it's, again, going to be a pretty easy paint up just because the model is so good. Like, it doesn't need very much paint before it starts to really come to life and take shape and just turn from looking like a really cool model to a living dinosaur. But again, mine definitely looks fun, but I'm really excited to actually get the entire family together and take a look at the entire group together in one shot now with the female finally painted up. So let's go ahead and do that. So there we are. There is the family portrait now with all of the different Spinosaurus together. We've got the male Jurassic Park 3 adult variant. We have the male Jurassic Park 3 juvenile variant. We also have the hatchlings there in the center. And then, of course, our female version, the more scientifically accurate type of a version of a Spinosaurus there in the back left. So you've got the entire family there together looking really, really cool and creating probably one of the most exciting things that I've ever seen when it comes to articulated dinosaurs. Never in a million years would I have expected to own an entire family of articulated Spinosaurs, whether it's the juvenile, the adults, and then of course the babies. The babies don't sport articulation, but they are still part of the family. Don't discriminate. And you can see again that they all look extremely, extremely cool together. Now, as far as a size goes, in the position that it's currently in, as I like to put it, in the kind of quadrupedal sort of a position, I just think it looks really neat like this, and that's probably the way I've had it displayed most of this review. But for a length, now the length of course wouldn't really change much, but for a length you are looking at right around the 16.5 inch range, just shy of 16.5 inches, or about 41, actually about 42 centimeters. So really quite long. In this position, the highest point is definitely the, maybe it's not the tail, it actually might be the sail. You're looking at about 5 3/4 inches, or around 14.5, actually maybe approaching 15 centimeters, and then, no, about 6 inches actually to the tip of the tail. So the tip of the tail is longer. I just apparently can't tell. My eyes don't work right or something. Or about 15 centimeters. Now, I did try to answer a few of the questions throughout this review that I had seen on Artic Figures' Instagram account about this Spinosaurus, one of which was, again, can you correct the wrists? So yes, you absolutely can. They can go the correct position. I just, for some reason, always have them like this. So they're pronated, which is incorrect, but you can, of course, turn them and make them correct. But the other question that I had seen was, can you stand the Spinosaurus up basically in a bipedal position, or does it have to always be quadrupedal? And the answer to that clearly is yes, you can stand the Spinosaurus up. It can stand on the hind legs rather than on all fours. I just like to put it on all fours. I just think it looks really fun on all fours. I don't know why. I just think it looks really neat in that kind of quadrupedal position. That's just my own personal preference for this figure. But of course, again, if you stand it up on its hind legs, it's going to be a bit taller, but that, of course, being an articulated figure, depends on you and your preference as to how high you want it standing and stuff like that. Now, one thing to keep in mind when it comes to articulated figures like this is that the rear legs are often kind of like, when it comes to the amount of articulated joints, they can buckle a little bit. So you just have to kind of, just like with the adult male and everything, you just have to find the sweet spot in the legs where you can kind of get it to stand and position correctly for the legs to balance out. And we'll just get it back in my quadrupedal position here for a size comparison. But again, they definitely do stand, and they also, of course, go from the bipedal position to the quadrupedal position very nicely. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line. And we actually should probably put him back there underneath the Spino a little bit to give a more accurate size. Same with Muldoon, they're actually a little bit further forward. But right there, that should help to give you a pretty good idea of the size of this Spinosaurus and the fact that at 1/38 scale, it definitely has some pretty decent size to it. I think that is pretty obvious here next to these figures. But for another comparison, here we have the Artic Figures version next to the PNSO Spinosaurus, again showing you that the Artic Figures version is definitely a good bit larger than the PNSO version. For another comparison, here is the GR Toys version of the Spinosaurus, and although, hold on, we pull this up from the side, it might look like the GR Toys version is a good bit bigger. The figures are very similar in size. I think if the tail was stretched out on the GR Toys version, it might be a little bit longer, but not by much. It would be just barely. The one thing that is obvious, though, is that the head sculpt of the GR Toys version is a bit thicker than our Artic Figures version, which I think the Artic Figures version actually looks better because of that. But definitely a very cool visual here with both of these Spinosaurus next to each other. Then we have a comparison here next to the Papo Spinosaurus. I recently used this in a comparison and stated it was the Papo T-Rex because I'm apparently just always saying Papo T-Rex, but next to the Papo Spinosaurus, you can see again that the Artic Figures version is definitely quite a bit longer. Similar body mass and everything, but the Artic Figures version, again, is a little bit longer than what we see on the Papo version. And then we'll go the route of the randoms, as we have the Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus here next to the Spinosaurus. Obviously, no comparison here as far as size. The Spino definitely beats these guys out. And then for a final comparison, we have the Collectae Deluxe Dimetrodon, the Schleich Diabloceratops, and the Safari LTD Eutyrannus here, just to iron out a size with one final comparison. So this brand new female version of the Artic Figures Spinosaurus is just beautiful. Just like every single Spinosaurus in this family was, I'm really excited to see again an entire family of Spinosaurus created by Artic Figures. I'm definitely excited to see the Plesiosaur that he is intending on including in this range as well, because he wants to include that if the Indiegogo campaign reaches a certain point. I'm not entirely sure what the point is that he's hoping to reach for that Plesiosaur to be created, but definitely fingers crossed it reaches that goal, because I would really like to see that Plesiosaur get created as well. But again, the Spinosaurs are all awesome. We have a lot of variation with them when it comes to having an adult, a juvenile, hatchlings, and now this version. And this version's really cool because if you look at it, it looks like it's kind of a mixture of a more accurate Spinosaurus mixed with a Jurassic Park 3 style Spinosaurus, and obviously giving it more of a up-to-date, modern sort of a look for the Spinosaurus. But at the same time, you know, it could probably hold its own as just being a more accurate interpretation of a Spinosaurus. So it really is pretty much the best of both worlds, and he has done a phenomenal job on the fine detail. Very, very highly detailed, very crisp detail. The print quality of Artic Figures is honestly out of this world, and on top of that, the actual product itself is really high quality. Like, the material used is really high quality. It has a much higher quality feel than most articulated figures, which is another huge plus for the Artic Figures line. Of course, you can purchase this when it comes to an unpainted or a painted version. That would be up to you which route you would like to go. You can also choose to purchase this in 1/38 scale, which is the one we are looking at here. I know he has a 1/18 scale version that he's offering up on the Indiegogo campaign for the adult male. I think there might be one for this, but don't quote me on that. Definitely something to check out. Again, head over to the Indiegogo campaign for Artic Figures right now. Browse through all the different options. He has so many options on there when it comes to like a full family or just the individual dinosaurs, or even like battle packs where he has like his T-Rex and Spinosaurus together, which is just so cool. But again, he has a ton of different options on there, as well as, again, different sizes when it comes to the 1/18th and 1/38th, which is what we've been looking at, the 1/38th. But on top of all of that, you have tons of articulation, lots of really, really nice, really smooth and very operational articulation that allows you to create numerous different poses, pretty much any and every pose you could possibly imagine with the Spinosaurus figures. So that as well is always a massive, massive plus. So if you are interested in these, the only thing I can tell you to do is head on over to the Indiegogo campaign right now for Artic Figures and grab yourself a Spinosaurus, grab yourself 3 Spinosaurus, grab yourself the entire family of Spinosaurus. One way or another, go check out that Indiegogo campaign, grab yourself some sort of a Spinosaurus, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.